Ramadan is over. Now what? I think it's very natural for us all to be feeling this almost crash out after a beautiful, spiritually high, spiritually nourishing, beautiful month to then the shock to real life, right? And it kind of, if you can compare it to, is like going on the best holiday ever, and you come back to real life and it's the post-holiday blues. That is a feeling. So this video is very much a chance for us to think about, okay, how can we keep riding that spiritual high and that wave and stay true to our the things we set out to do, right? Because Islam is a religion of, if we put it, if really the best word for it to describe is discipline, in my view. And if you don't have that, it's really tricky to continue showing up every day and being the best version of yourself. So the word ihsan is always used. So you want to do everything with excellence, any action, any act of worship as well. So what I was thinking about in this before recording was like, what is one thing that I feel like I can carry on doing from this month that is going to serve me throughout the rest of the year, hopefully. And I was thinking it's those small acts that we can do consistently. For example, obviously waking up early ahead of prayer times, so Fajr being one of them. Being consistent with checking in with your family, being consistent with those small acts of goodness that you thought about for that month, being embedded in part of your day-to-day, is you improving year on year. And what I was thinking about as well was me last year versus me this year. Whole different person. Me last Ramadan versus me this Ramadan. Whole different person. And I hope this doesn't come across as like bragging, because that was the last thing I'd want. But my point being is, I remember me at Eid prayer last year versus me at Eid prayer this year, different person again. This year, and again, I hope it doesn't come across as like I'm boasting about my spiritual connection. That's not the intention. But I know this time I started crying during Eid prayer, and that's never happened to me before. And I remember me many years ago when I was abroad doing Ramadan, and I remember I'd see aunties or like the elderly women bawling during prayer, even just during Ramadan. They'd be crying during Tarawih, and I would be thinking to myself, like, what is going on? Like, I wonder why they're crying, and I never thought about it in that way. In that one day that would be me, and you know, there's a reason why that happens. It's, for me, I'd interpret it as I'm spiritually moved, whereas before maybe I was a bit more disconnected. And you know, when you're just going through the motions, and when you're younger as well, you can, when you think of Eid and when you think of Ramadan, you're always just excited about the food, you're always excited about the good times. And while all of that is fair, and you should definitely be excited about good times, like why should you not? Eid is a fun day and you should celebrate. It just made me think, like, oh my gosh, did I finally realise the purpose of this act of worship? And also, me last year, I didn't wear the hijab, and now of course I am working my hardest to continue with that. But yeah, it's just like Kylie Jenner, a year of realization. It feels like things are clicking into place, and I think it's so easy for you to go from that to then thinking, like, what's the point of, you know, everyday life stuff? You can not swing into extremes, but you can swing into potentially depression, or potentially thinking like, what is the point of this thing that's keeping me away from an act of worship, or this thing that doesn't feel like it's serving me or feels like a distraction. Because if you think about it, what Ramadan is, it strips away all those things that we think we need in our life that are almost decorations and all different forms of distractions, to then seeing what is important. So then when you get back into the routines of daily life, it can feel like, oh my gosh, this is a waste of time. But I think what I've also realised now is everything has its place. So like, for example, a job, or different duties or responsibilities you might have in your day-to-day, it's not a case of saying bye to them. And I know one of the lectures I was listening by Sheikh Omar Suleiman, he was talking about how, you know, you can have two guys, two husbands or fathers, that during Ramadan they're spending every hour reading the Quran, versus, oh, they see their wife or their the mother of their child is struggling in the kitchen, and they're not giving up their worship to help her. You know, which one's a better husband? Obviously the one that's going to put the Quran down and help their wife. So I think there's a balance, and I think Islam is all about moderation and balance and understanding. There's a time and a place for things. So if anything to take away from this video, and to keep on clutching onto that goodness that you've cultivated and realised during the past month, is please don't forget about those small good things that you were doing already, and just keep it going, because God loves things that are consistent and a sincere effort as opposed to you trying to go all in and then giving up the next day. So go easy on yourself. Nobody wants you to be having a bad time or hurting yourself or feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so hard, what's the point? Like, you don't want to be on that extreme either, but give yourself the time to keep it up, because life will always get busy, and Ramadan just shows us what is actually important. So I hope that has been useful, and I'll see you on the next one.